6 months after Pearl Harbor, Japan was unstoppable. They had swept across the Pacific like a storm, sinking fleets, capturing islands, and humiliating the greatest powers on Earth. Then came 4 days in June 1942. 4 days that broke Japan's spine and changed the entire war. To understand what happened at Midway, you have to understand what Japan was trying to do. After Pearl Harbor, Japan didn't just want dominance. They wanted finality. They wanted to destroy what remained of the American Pacific Fleet so completely that the United States would have no choice but to negotiate peace. And to do that, they needed a trap. The island of Midway sits almost exactly in the center of the Pacific Ocean. It's small, barely 2 square miles, but its location made it everything. If Japan seized Midway, they would have an airbase deep in the Pacific, a dagger pointed at Hawaii, just 1,300 miles away. More importantly, Japan's commander, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, knew that if they threatened Midway, America would have to send its aircraft carriers to defend it, and that was exactly what he wanted. Yamamoto was brilliant. He had planned Pearl Harbor. His fleet was enormous, over 200 ships, including the most powerful aircraft carriers in the world. America had 3 carriers. 2 of them, the Enterprise and the Hornet, were battle-ready. The third, the Yorktown, had been badly damaged just weeks earlier at the Battle of the Coral Sea. Navy engineers said it would take 3 months to repair. They had 3 days. Japan's plan was massive and complex. Yamamoto would send a decoy force north toward Alaska to confuse the Americans. Then his main strike force, 4 fleet carriers, the best in the Imperial Navy, would approach Midway from the northwest, destroy its defenses, and lure what was left of the American fleet into a killing zone. On paper, it was almost perfect. But Japan had a problem they didn't know about. American codebreakers, working in a basement in Hawaii under a brilliant naval intelligence officer named Commander Joseph Rochefort, had cracked Japan's naval code. They couldn't read everything, but they had read enough. They knew Japan was targeting a location they called AF, but they needed to confirm it was Midway. So they ran a trick. They had Midway radio a fake message in plain language saying their water distillation plant had broken down. Days later, Japanese intercepts mentioned that AF was short on fresh water. That was all they needed. Admiral Chester Nimitz, commander of the Pacific Fleet, now knew exactly where Japan was going, roughly when they would arrive and approximately how many ships they were bringing. He had lost the element of strength, but he had gained something more valuable. Surprise! He positioned his 3 carriers northeast of Midway, in a spot the Japanese didn't expect. They would wait, hidden, while Japan walked straight into their ambush. The morning of June 4, 1942, Japan launched its first wave, over 100 aircraft, toward Midway Island. The attack was devastating. Hangars were destroyed. Fuel tanks erupted in flames. But the airstrip itself remained usable. Japan's carrier commander, Admiral Kiichi Nagamo, had a decision to make. His aircraft had returned, and his flight decks were being rearranged to launch a second strike on Midway. But in that moment, his scouts reported something alarming. American ships were in the area, possibly a carrier. Nagamo froze. He had to choose. Launch immediately with the planes he had ready, or wait. Rearm his aircraft with weapons capable of sinking warships, and strike with full force. He chose to wait. His crews scrambled across the flight decks, ripping off bombs designed for land targets and replacing them with torpedoes. Aircraft were restacked. Fuel lines ran across the open deck. Ammunition was piled in the hangars below. It was controlled chaos. And in the middle of that chaos, American aircraft found them. 3 separate American torpedo bomber squadrons had attacked that morning and been almost completely wiped out. 41 aircraft. Most of the men didn't come back. They attacked at low altitude, slow and straight, into walls of anti-aircraft fire and Japanese Zero fighters. They didn't sink a single ship. But they did something else. They pulled Japan's fighter cover down to sea level. At 10:22 in the morning, American dive bombers from the Enterprise in Yorktown arrived high above the Japanese fleet. The Zeros were below them, the flight decks were wide open. In the next 6 minutes, 3 of Japan's 4 fleet carriers were mortally wounded. The Akagi, the Kaga, and the Soryu, all burning. The fuel, the ammunition, the planes loaded and waiting to launch, all of it ignited in massive catastrophic explosions. 6 minutes. The greatest naval air power Japan had ever assembled was gone. Japan's 4th carrier, the Hiryu, fought on and managed to severely damage the Yorktown before she too was found and destroyed. The Yorktown herself, battered and listing, was finally sunk by a Japanese submarine 2 days later. America mourned her. But they had won something that could not be replaced. Japan lost 4 irreplaceable fleet carriers. They lost over 200 aircraft. They lost thousands of trained, experienced pilots and crews, men who had spent years mastering their craft, men who simply could not be quickly replaced. Japan would never again launch an offensive operation of this scale in the Pacific. From this moment forward, they would be on defense. America, with its vast industrial capacity, would build more carriers, train more pilots, and push steadily westward across the ocean, island by island, until the war was finally over. When it was over, 4 days had passed. 4 days that cost Japan the aircraft carriers it could never rebuild, the pilots it could never replace, and the momentum it could never recover. The war in the Pacific would continue for 3 more brutal years. Thousands more would die on beaches and in jungles and aboard ships in waters all across the ocean. But the direction of the war, the inevitable direction, was decided in those 4 days above the blue water, near a tiny island almost no one had heard of. History rarely announces itself. Sometimes it arrives quietly, with the sound of dive bombers falling from a clear morning sky. And 6 minutes later, the world has changed.